Welcome to another episode of the Peak Humans podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to have Zach Bell, an entrepreneur, community builder, and philosopher who's dedicated his life to fostering genuine connection and community. For the past 20 years, Zach's traveled the world, learning from the most disruptive leaders in technology, spirituality, and counterculture. His diverse experiences include being a bartender, yoga teacher, a monk, marketing executive, tech founder, and confidant to eccentric billionaires. He's lived in his car, co-living experiments, communes, and Hollywood mansions. Currently, Zach splits his time between a remote beach in Baja, Mexico, and a studio in Brooklyn, New York. When he's not traveling, you can find him enjoying a sauna and surfing at home. Join us as we delve into Zach's remarkable journey and his unique ability and his unique philosophy on life in this episode of the Peak Humans podcast. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Great to have you, man. I'm excited to dig in deeper. You are doing a lot of epic things in the world and you have a lot of amazing skills. So I want to dig in deeper and share some of your gifts with the audience.
Excited.
Yeah. Well, let's start with you, actually. I'm curious, what's some of what's your story? Give us a little background of Zach Bell and how you got to be doing what you're doing.
I think start with a simple question.
Very simple question.
I mean, my story dates back to when I was really young. When I was 16, I got given a couple really interesting books, the Philistine Prophecy and Many Lives, Many Masters and Ishmael and all these books that kind of like help you question kind of mainstream beliefs and mainstream theology. And then I got sent on a month-long outward bound. And I came home to like a wealthy Wall Street town. And I had this like huge hit where I was like, wait a second. This can't be what you get if you win. Like, this sucks. It doesn't suck. It's just like beautiful, but it's like there's nothing here and no one's happy. And I went back to public school. I had been thrown out of boarding school and I went back to public school and I took a class called the 1960s, and I realized during that class that what happened in the 60s was going to happen again during my generation, and it was going to be completely technology enabled, and it would succeed. And I just wanted to put myself right in the middle of it. So I made my entire life journey from the age of 16, like finding the cultural momentum of that thread of the 1960s, like kind of countercultural disruption movement. And I tracked it through technology and spirituality and the religion of no religion and all these unique people who were bringing these ideas to fruition. And I just kind of kept placing myself in events where these people were and in their houses, following them around and learning from them. And I ended up, traveling the world with the founders of Burning Man and got involved with the people who started Esalen, which is where a lot of this happened in the 60s, and just kind of was tracking cultural movements because I realized I knew that there had to be a better way of doing things than kind of like that. I'm 40, right? So we're like the generation where the American dream kind of like collapsed, in our lifetime, and we're seeing it with our parents. Like that kind of story doesn't breed happiness and doesn't give meaning. So I just went and searched for it.
Wow. That's wild. So it sounds like you got to climb that proverbial ladder that a lot of people are trying to climb that they think is going to lead to happiness. And you got to see that really early in your life, and you got the message though, and you actually took action on that.
Yeah, it was like these are the people who, I mean, I got so lucky to grow up in like a beautiful, wealthy town in the Northeast. But I was like, these are the people who like won the game. And they're like divorced 4, and they're like, don't see their kids, and they're sad and they work all the time. And I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna like work hard for that. Like, it's just not worth it, And so I was like, well, what's worth it? I don't know. Let's go find out. And so I used to say that back then I would say my purpose in life is finding my purpose in life.
I love that. That's cool. Go ahead.
And I went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. I was going to say that's really cool and inspiring that you have the curiosity and also the courage to actually go down the rabbit hole.
I think curiosity is the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I encourage in people. It's like, what are you just curious about? Just go as deep as you can on whatever you're curious about.
Yep.
That's the game. It's not intelligence. It's not anything. It's just like your ability to like really explore your curiosity.
Yep. I agree. Nice.
Yeah.
Um, I read your article about sharing, which is really cool, and your philosophy around sharing and your sharing principles. So can you share with us a little bit about that, your philosophy about sharing and those principles?
Yeah, I think like I was in San Francisco in 2010 when like the sharing economy gave rise, and it was like electric. It was like share everything, own nothing, like have access to everything, like travel light, be free, kind of like. And then we got like a taxi app and a hotel website.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. I was like, what the heck? Like I wanted that. And I ended up going to Burning Man and getting involved with some of the kind of core philosophers and founders of Burning Man. And they were really excited about a book called The Gift. And it's all about gifting economies versus market-based exchange. And the core principle can kind of be summarized as like if I give you something, the energy of the item becomes more in the transaction. Like if I give you a spoon and then you give the spoon to your mom, it's like the spoon that Zach gave me, that I gave to my son, who he gave it to me, and like the spoon becomes like mythical. If I sell you that spoon for $1 and then you sell it to somebody else for 99 cents, they're like, man, I got ripped off by Zach.
Mhm.
And so if you sell something, the energy of the item is consumed in the transaction. So gifting and sharing creates magic. And magic is unquantifiable. You can't quantify magic as in points. You can't expect anything in return to really activate magic. And so my entire life has been by sharing what I have and having others share back with me. And with that, we replicate, and it creates this crazy magic and this crazy abundance that we live by. Cultures that live by sharing principles have abundance and magic alive, and cultures that live by market-based exchange tend to have scarcity and fear.
Yeah.
Uh, and these are just like you can't explain it, but like these are subtle things that like come out of how you do things. Magic, spirituality, whatever you want to call it. These are things that are really real.
Yep.
Um,
I agree. And I like what you said about when you do share things and you give things, there's deeper meaning. And again, there's no amount of money that can quantify that you can put on meaning, right? There's no price to, especially
well,
obviously different levels of meaning. So I love that
saw a
idea.
quote the other day that said, "The man is so poor, all he has is money."
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I got a text. I get texts all the time from people on my place, and this woman's like, "Oh my God, like I have a friend now. Like I had this woman who stayed at my house for 2 months. Like her car broke down. I went and we're like best friends now." And I keep getting these texts of people because we don't run a profit-driven platform. We don't allow profit on the platform. So if you're looking to like run a rental business, like go to Airbnb, go to VRBO, Booking.com, whatever. If you want to share your place with your friends, that's what we do. And so like, and that's how my life was set up. Like I wrote another piece called I could never afford my lifestyle.
Yep.
Like if I had to pay market rate
I,
for everything I'd ever done, I wouldn't have done anything. I wouldn't have had the money for it. I'm working on a piece right now called There's Many Ways to Fly Business Class. One of those ways is to pay for it.
yep.
Like if you look at all the people in the business class cabin, assume like a third of them paid their own money for it.
Yep.
Another third of them didn't even use money.
Yep. It's so
You
true.
know,
And I love that it does shift you out of that, right? And also when you go into that framework, for me at least, it makes me think about, like you were saying, about giving first. How can I add value? How can I give? How can I create first before just me getting the thing that I want, right? So instead of zapping the energy right away, like you said, it creates this magic that you don't even know what's going to come of that.
I mean, you gotta trust the magic.
Yep.
Like that's the with the piece you reference, like that's the game. It's like you just have to don't give to the point where you have nothing, but like give as much as you can and like build the bonds and like it'll come back. It
Yep.
does. That's how it works.
Yep.
But you can't expect it. And I do believe sharing to be anything that's not profit driven. So we have a lot of money that's just exchanged on our platform, but it's really just cost covering. As long
Yeah.
as you're not like Lewis Hyde, who wrote this book, The Gift, that inspired the Burning Man founders. He also mentions like the concept of usury, right? Like interest. It's like the best way to destroy magic.
Yeah.
You know, like you would never charge your mom if your parents needed a loan, you wouldn't charge them interest, right? But you charge these other people interest and you're just like sapping
Yeah.
energy. All the profit layers are like sapping energy out. It's like I've lived in small towns in Mexico for many years, and you see people come down here and they just try to profit off it and they ruin the place.
Yeah.
Like that's what we need, another Airbnb. Cool. Yeah, I want you to build as cheaply as possible and furnish it as shittily as possible so you can make money. So that why? You just to do what? To go find another place that you can go live? It's like the fisherman, the fisherman and the
Exactly.
banker.
It's exactly what I was thinking about. Yep.
It's like
Can
it's
you
just
can you tell that story real quick for people that
yeah, it's
have?
one of my favorite stories. And it's about there's a banker goes on a vacation to like South Pacific Island and he meets a fisherman and he's the only fisherman on the island. And the banker's like, "Hey man, like you're the only fisherman on the island. Like, if I could give you some money and you could like buy a bunch of fishing boats and like really create like a large operation of like fishing and expand really big." And the fisherman's like, "Why would I do that?" And he's like, "Well, if you expand big enough, someone will buy the company, and then you can retire and move to a small island in the South Pacific and fish."
Yep.
And it's just like it's so absurd. It's like that's what we keep doing everywhere. It's like I see people all the time right now are like, "Hey, I'm like building a community." And so I bought land and I'm selling lots. And then I'm like, you're not building a community. You're a real estate developer. You're colonizing a location.
Yeah.
Like we got to like get people to be able to go somewhere and literally just be there and enjoy it. You don't have to make money from it. There's an amazing meme I love that's like Westerner walks out of an ayahuasca ceremony and
Mm.
goes, "Is this a career?"
Yep.
Like
Yep.
doesn't need to be the thing you make money at. You don't have to make money at everything. It's like a disease.
It's wild. It's so true. What I love about sharing too, you said you learned that lesson from your mom. She instilled that in you?
Yeah. Yeah, she was like the pow your life will be as rich as your community around you.
That's
And the
beautiful.
way that you build community is by sharing with people. That's it.
Yep. I was gonna ask what are one or two principles, but it sounds like for sure sharing obviously is a principle. Is there any other principle that we'd say to build community?
I mean, to really build authentic community, and I mean, if you lead through life with sharing with people, and I can't speak for anyone else. I've led my life through sharing what I have with people, sharing my food, sharing my house, sharing my space, sharing my time, sharing my energy, and in like authentic curiosity.
Mm,
Like the reason I think I have such an interesting network is I didn't go seeking them for business.
yeah.
Just turns out that like some of the most interesting people in the world who've sought their curiosity so deeply have become some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in the world. I was like, everyone loves to hate Elon right now, but I'm a huge Elon fan. I just listened to an interview about him today. It's like, why is he doing all these things? Like he's legitimately trying to protect humanity from like a potential calamitous event, and like he's doing everything he can to like. So there's this like such a deep level of curiosity. I'm friends with one of the guys who started Google, and like he just like they were just like really trying to structure information and make it useful. They weren't trying to become billionaires. They weren't trying to make money. They were trying to like do this thing. And so there's this like curiosity mixed with sharing that will just open the world up for people. It
Yep.
has for me.
Yep. I agree. What's something you're really curious about these days?
I think I've been really deeply curious about the same thing for like 20 years. Um, I believe that internet and travel enabled, like communications technology and travel enabled, uh, uh, we have an ability to conceptualize who our people are, and because of that, who our identity is outside the boundaries of race, religion, and geography.
Yeah.
And I think that everywhere I've traveled around the world, from Ibiza to refugee camps to Southeast Asia to China, Taiwan, South America, Antarctica, everyone you meet has a really clear and defined value set,
Mm,
and it's really specific. And I feel like if we can get that group to be able to communicate together, it will be more powerful than any group that's ever existed on the planet. And its values aligned with you. It doesn't want to do wars based on nationalism. It doesn't want to clear cut forests. It doesn't want to strip mine places. It doesn't want to subjugate people based on their sexual orientation or their gender identity or their race or religion. It wants to live in harmony. And I feel like for the first time, a dream of like the 60s of like living in peace and love and having no nations and no religions could actually exist. And I just keep trying to run experiments that help that thing become aware of itself.
Mm, I love that. Return is one of those experiments then, yeah?
That it's been the platform for the experiment, right? It's just been
Yep.
an experimental container. It was started as a partnership with Esalen Institute in 2012. And it was an experimental container to bring together the thought leaders, the diverse and different thought leaders and philosophers, practitioners that are in that space. And we talked about everything from community to identity to meaning to spiritual but not religious gatherings to the religion of no religion to modern dating relationships and new currency creation and everything in between.
Yep.
This has been kind of a think tank to help people start to see themselves as part of something bigger. I truly believe that us alive today are just a continuation of the 1960s counterculture movement,
Mm,
especially the technologists and the kind of disruptive creators.
yeah. Have you read the book, The Fourth Turning?
I haven't yet, but it's been recommended a few times. I
Yeah,
think it's required at this point.
it's a great book. I thought about it because again, you said it before at the beginning, but also now again, there's cycles in history, just like there's cycles in everything, right? And there's obviously cycles that happen a million times a second in our body, and there's also cycles that happen like once every
Yeah.
80 years in the fourth turning case. So every 80 years, there's like a turning, and right now we're actually going through that turning. So if you go back 80 years from approximately, right, 80 years from today, 80 years from then, 80 years from then, you'll notice these like big kind of revolutionary movements that humanity goes through, and there's thread lines of the generations in between, right? So every 20 years or so, there's a generation within that.
And this is just such a wildly exciting time to be alive.
Yeah, it's incredible.
One of the chapters I'm writing in my book and a talk I gave a bunch this year was called Waking Up to a Renaissance. And it
Yeah.
shows all the parallels of today to the Italian Renaissance.
Mm.
I mean, it's like exactly the same stuff.
Yeah. What were some?
And it's like it's so funny that people like to live in this like post-apocalyptic, like chaotic, like it's the worst time ever to be alive. Everything's fucked. I'm like, it is so meaningfully not that's so meaningfully not what's real.
Yep.
This is the best time to be alive. But to any person in the world, pretty much every level of humans has risen up at a level that's never been a better time to be a woman, a minority in most places in the world.
Yep.
No, we have like genocides that we talk about today and that we look at are in the tens of thousands of people. Just 80 years ago, it was in the tens of millions of people.
Yep.
We're like so much better. That is still bad and that is terrible, but like we're getting so much better at it. I think like they call the time before the Italian Renaissance, they call it the Dark Ages. I think they'll call the time before this like the age of world wars,
Mm. Yeah.
right? We were like dropping atomic bombs on places and like people were like running out of ditches into machine gun fire like every day. And
Yeah.
now today, like words hurt us.
It's true, man. Yep. And that's why I always go back to it's the mind that is the thing that we have to master, right? It doesn't matter how much abundance we have. If our mindset isn't prepared, we're going to come up with new problems that aren't even really problems, right? Like words or how people look at us.
Yeah, I don't know why we're doing that stuff. It's so weird. Like why we've decided to make this the worst time ever.
Yep.
And you have these people that are like wanting to feel oppressed. They want to feel struggle.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, no one who's actually oppressed and struggling wants to feel that.
Yep.
Yeah, so what like why are people like I don't know, I had a friend over for dinner last night. We were just chatting about kind of like the cultural vacuum that is America.
Yeah.
There just isn't like a substrate there to grab onto that like gives meaning anymore. It was once this
Yep.
great idea, But once you get a couple generations into America, it's like
Yeah,
it's place. Like there's nothing to like hold on to. It's very materialistic.
it's true. Yeah. And why it's wild because it gives those people meaning, unfortunately, right? Like some people get meaning like by being depressed, by being having these big crazy problems or being offended, right? So it's again an interesting psychological pattern of humans. An
They get
interesting,
meaning by being offended. That's so real.
yeah.
It's so real.
And an interesting quote is good times create we hard times create strong people. And then strong people create good times. And then good times create weak people. And then weak people create bad times.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I
right
love it.
now, I don't know if you read Ray Dalio's book, but the cycles of, again, even countries and empires, so to speak, it's about every 200, 250 years, right? So it's not really been 250 yet for America yet, but it's been, was 1776, I think, was the independent Declaration of Independence.
I pull on a different thread with that. There's a author I quote a lot called Benedict Anderson. He wrote a book called Imagined Communities. He's an Oxford professor. And he
Uh-huh.
says that about every 400 or 500 years,
Yeah.
humanity is a major pivot in our technology,
Yeah.
whether it's like the wheel or like the printing press or something.
Yep.
And these things give rise to our ability to conceptualize who our people are outside the boundaries of
Yeah.
they were. So you went from like feudalism to dynasties to religious realms to city states to nation states to empires back to nation states. And it happens about every 400 or 500 years. And the last one was the printing press, and it gave us the nation state. And we just invented the internet. So I don't know what's coming next, but that was about 400 or 500 years ago. So,
Yeah.
it's like the moment. There's like every way you look at it, this is a moment. And what an exciting time to be alive. I just wish everyone would chill the fuck out. Like it's like just relax, like just be present, be really grateful, and move from there. Not
Yep.
some new age shit. It's just like real. Any spiritual teacher you
Yeah.
talk to,
And
any
right, on a meaning level, but also on a factful level too. There's a book called Factfulness. Like factually, like you were saying, poverty is lowest ever, disease is lowest ever, like all these things are as lowest ever. So it just gets magnified because of social media a lot, which also is a blessing because we get to be in touch and see things we normally wouldn't. But again, the news obviously throws the stuff in your face that's going to hook you and get you triggered.
and we use a piece of technology that's incredible every day, and we hate it.
Yeah.
So that just breeds this like inner hate for it,
Yep.
and inner like resentfulness of self, and like you got to imagine there are people addicted to books, there are people addicted to newspapers, there are people addicted to television, there's people addicted to like something else before that.
Yeah.
Technology is incredible. We can talk for free instantly in any language to any person anywhere on the planet. What? Like that's epic. And there's this weird thing where time on app, like the KPI that organizes like the meta network, which keeps you hooked on the app,
Yeah.
you weren't hooked on the app, it wouldn't work.
What would have worked?
If you weren't paying attention to it, it literally wouldn't work and you wouldn't be able to be connected to all your friends globally.
Right.
Like you actually have to be slightly addicted to it for it to actually work. And it
Yeah.
works in like spreading information globally very rapidly, in getting our eyes on problems in places where there's problems, getting you to be able to communicate with your friends around the world. If you weren't slightly paying attention to it, it wouldn't work. So you actually need to be somewhat addicted to it. So rather than like talk about how bad that is, just talk about like what I'm doing in the mornings. Just like no phone for an hour. Just set boundaries, learn how to
Yeah.
use it. Like we're not going to get rid of it. We just need to learn how to live with it.
Yep. I agree. It's a tool. We have to use the tool versus let the tool use us. I love what you just
Totally.
said. It's like we should totally, it's just like crypto. We use crypto we don't even, most people don't even use crypto at all for any good reasons. But like this too, it's like, I love it when you said, we should be talking to people in like, I should have people in China, Russia, like all these different countries on a freaking Zoom call, like talking to each other, right? That
Totally.
was a cool idea.
We ran an experiment where we rewrote the Declaration of Independence with a group of about 50 people from around the world away from this is the American Declaration of Independence, but we took away any concept of like the land box that is America and wrote it to like a global community. It was really fun. The fact that you could actually do that in multiple languages, multiple people, multiple time zones. I ended up just like being up at 4 a.m. so that I could like accommodate the most amount of time zones.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. I mean, we're just not using it. It's like so epic, this
Yep.
tool that we have, and we're just not using it because we're like, it's so bad. It's like, it's not that bad.
Yep. What'd you learn from that experiment of doing the Declaration of Independence from all the people around the world?
You gotta like the only reason you got I came up with this story that was like, how many constitutional congresses do you think happened before it took? Like how many people tried that before it like worked?
Hmm.
There were probably a bunch of events that tried to
Yeah.
convene the right group of people to like do a thing and like create an idea. And that one just worked. And so I think we just got to keep running those experiments. And one
Yep.
of them's going to catch if you have like the right group of people and they're wearing like the right outfits and they have like the right signatures and you write the language right. But if you read these early foundational documents to America, there's some like new age spiritual hippie woo woo, we're all one stuff, just like written by lawyers.
Yeah.
Right? It's literally like we're all one. There's like an eye of Isis and a pyramid and sacred geometry all over everything. It's just like they're also all lawyers and like business people.
Yep.
And so you kind of like you see all this hippie stuff going this way and then all this like pure business stuff going the other way. I think there's a moment where I want to run that experiment live for real at some point.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people trying to come together outside the boundaries of their nations in order to form a more perfect union. Like the language is quotable from all these documents.
I
You know,
feel
and at that moment they were like anyone of color, any women, any indigenous people were all excluded. So like, what if we just did that again and like included everybody? Like it's not that complicated. Like it's not
should
that
try it
complicated.
again. Yeah. I think Joe Rogan said something funny. He's like, he read something ridiculous in the Constitution. Is like, did these guys think they're like, oh no, you guys didn't update this shit for 200 years? What are you guys thinking? Um,
We update
I-
everything every week. Um,
yeah. I like how you talk about things as experiments. And that's a great framework, right? Because a lot of times people get so caught up, in myself included, sometimes it's like, this is the thing and I don't want to fail, right? But an experiment is like most of the time meant to fail, but it's more meant about learning and curiosity and just hypotheses, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's all we have are these
Yeah.
great experiments. Like nobody knows how any of this thing works.
Yep.
And it's got to keep trying stuff to make it work in the way that you feel is better for more people.
Yep.
I can't stop like hitting on the fact that every time I travel, I meet all these different people from all these different, again, races, religions, socioeconomic situations, and they all have the same values.
Yeah.
And you ever think about like you always wonder, it's like what's going on with politics? Like who actually believes that shit? Like who wants that person? Well, turns out not most people, but a small group of highly motivated people. But the largest group of people are like you and I and everyone that we know, and we're just like not able to connect to our community because we don't have intense polarizing views.
Yeah.
We feel like it's just us and our friends, but every study that you read shows us as the largest majority of people in the world.
Today's show is proudly sponsored by AG1. One of my favorite parts of my morning routine is drinking AG1. It provides my body with all of the nutrition it needs and supports my performance. AG1 is made up of 75 high quality, whole food sourced ingredients, pre and probiotics, and empowers the gut for whole body health. Essential daily routines like drinking AG1 helps me stay committed to my standard of living in a peak state. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Tap my link down below or go to drinkag1.com/Naeem. That's drinkag1.com/Naeem. Check it out. How would you define us? Who is us?
So there's a great book quote also from there, a couple from Yale. It's called The Cultural Creatives. They ran the stats department at Yale for like 30 years, and they conducted a career-long meta study where they put in their own questions in every poll that they ran.
Yep.
And they found that there's a 37% of the world, which is by orders of magnitude the largest majority of people in the world.
Yeah.
All the other groups are like 3%, 5%, 7%, 12%, 6%, but this group is 37% of the world. And they asked everyone about the 30 issues-based movements that have arisen between 1960 and 2000.
Yeah.
The issues-based movements are like women's equality, gay rights, the environment, organic, like so you get it, right?
Yep.
And
There's a
and
lawnmower outside the
and
window over here.
and
He's on.
and they said that 37% of the world believes in like 15 or all of them, or they only support one or two of them.
Wow.
So there and the most commonly held belief between that group of people that believes in those things is it's just us and our friends and the whole world is crazy. But it's actually, and it spans socioeconomic class, it spans
Yeah.
gender, it spans everything. It's like this 37% of the world. It's like, multiple billions of people have a very aligned value set, but they all think it's just them and their friends and the whole world is crazy because polarizing
Interesting.
stories move faster.
That's interesting. What is that? That's from a book you said?
Called the cultural creatives.
Cultural creatives. What's interesting, because I would actually gonna say, like, I've been across most of the United States when I was working for Tony, and it was cool because I got, to me, it's like an anthropology, like a big laboratory in anthropology and sociology, because I got to be people random, like Kansas City in the middle, or in the middle of Kansas, Oklahoma, random places, not like LA, Miami, New York, like all these metropolitan hubs of like innovation. So like with our friends, right? And like I'm trying to say this in a way where it's not like us versus them, but like I tell my girlfriend Josephina, it's like we live in a bubble in some respects, right? Because we are blessed and privileged to have the conversations we have, to have the technology we have, to have the jobs and access to people we have. And sometimes we forget that, right? Even just going to Burning Man is like a privilege. Anybody could go, but most people aren't even exposed to it or would have the courage or the curiosity to go. So I feel I used to, and I still honestly believe, and I'm happy you're telling me this because it's shifting maybe my mindset about it. Because I still feel like that's actually a small percentage. I feel like the Burning Man and like the world that goes to like a Tony Robbins event or just work or Esalen, I feel like that's like the minority of the world. And then I feel like the rest of the world, again, is just not at that. That's what we talked about spiral dynamics last time, right? And again, not good or bad, just levels of consciousness is what I'm going for. But what do you think about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I mean, we project like a very xenophobic story, us
Yeah.
who live by in major economic hubs,
Yep.
that like we're super advanced and like we're doing
Yeah.
it right, and like they're Luddites or like they're living in the past, like they're not progressive. I had a woman I was dating in college. She's from like a fourth generation farming family in north central Florida,
Hmm.
which is like the deepest part of the deepest South.
Yep.
You traveled, like you know that, and in your
Yeah,
mind, you're
I
like,
lived in
that's where like all
Jacksonville.
the racist rednecks are, right?
Yep.
And she pulled me aside at a party and she was like, "Your friends are so full of shit." She was like, "You guys talk about like living on the land and living organic and eating local." She was like, "And you're on a plane every day and you're throwing shit out and you're consuming at a crazy clip." She's like, "My family has lived on the land for 4 generations.
Yeah.
We compost everything. We maintain our soil. We don't have any waste. We grow all of our own food and meat, and we
Mm.
live exactly this world, but we don't even think about it as labeling it organic. We just do it because we're stewarding our land because it's the right way to do it. Like we don't have any, we don't talk, we don't have any language for this stuff, but we're actually living it fully, and you guys are full of shit."
Mm.
And I was like, you know what? You're 100% right.
Yeah.
100% right. And so
Yep.
we have this projected story that makes us want to feel superior to other people when at the end of the day, like the joke I have now is like I look at all these stories of Instagram where girls like take a photo of like my garden or some farm or something. They're like, my dream is to live off the land and grow food. I'm like, bitch, you're not playing every 3 days.
Yeah.
Like you're not growing anything. Like
Yeah.
no chance. Like nothing is growing in your life. You're like you're not even taking a remote close step to growing your own food.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just like I think there's like a logical disconnect where we think we're superior when actually there's other people that are living the lives we're preaching and talking about and yearning for in a far more simpler way.
Yeah, that's true. I like that. I agree with that too. Dude, there's a great book, The Sovereign Individual. Have you read it?
I have, yeah, it's great.
I'm thinking about it because you're talking about, again, moving beyond. We go, the printing press helps us move beyond feudalism and that model of like, and then we got into nation states, but now the information revolution, which already been happening since the internet, of course, but now AI and like blockchain, now we're really going to be able to not have nation states and be caught in borders and all these ideas, and we can live more freely and based on hopefully our united value systems, like you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, I follow the network state movement pretty closely.
Yeah.
I don't think the future is going to emerge out of there, but I think some of the ideas will.
Yep.
Um, it's just a really beautiful idea that no one, when we were living in city states, no one was sitting there being like, you know what, we got to make nations.
Yeah.
We're like, the next thing is nations. Like, you don't know what the next thing is until it's like there.
Yeah.
And it's something happening right now. And I don't know what it is, but I'm just trying to learn about it and surface it and give it language.
Mm. Yeah.
That's the game.
Yep.
We need storytellers, we need branding people, we need community people. This thing needs to like start to be tangible in a
Mm.
way that you don't need much privilege to join it. You can
Yeah.
see, you can talk about it, you can touch it, taste it, feel it, hold it. The flag, a passport, and a social security card are just reality objects of a made-up idea called a nation.
Yep.
So what are the reality objects of the next made-up idea that we're going to use to like organize ourselves or create our cultural identity?
Yeah.
But it can't be the same it was. Like
Yeah.
nations are literally set up because of like terrestrial borders that you couldn't cross because of wooden boats.
Right.
Right? We're like,
Yep.
Elon just landed like a starship last week. Like it's not gonna be the same anymore. It just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Yep. How do
The
I
people who
like,
created nations never saw the view. The people who created the structures that we live in today never looked down from the earth from an airplane window.
yeah.
It would blow their mind. Could blow their mind completely. We look
Yep.
at it every day. Think about it.
Yep. Yeah, it is incredible what Elon's doing. He's literally just transforming the entire world with in so many different ways. Starlink by itself is like incredible. And that's like the smallest thing
The
he's
New York
doing.
Times retracted the article they posted last week. I freaking love it.
What, oh, about
New York
what?
Times ran an article about they gave Starlink to an Amazonian tribe who instantly got hooked on porn and social media.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And they retracted the article. They were like, actually, we're sorry. That was totally not real. We don't know where we got our information from.
I like how you said you have to just sit with it. And it seems like you're good at being, which most people aren't, good at being comfortable with like the unknown and the uncertainty. How do you do that? And maybe you can't
Yeah.
explain it, right? But how do
So,
you do that? How do you
so
go about your
one
day?
of my favorite books, I'm looking for it to see if I can see it in my library, but I might not be able to. The first book that Alan Watts ever wrote was called The Wisdom of Insecurity.
Mm, yeah.
And it's not about insecure, like being insecure as like an
Yep.
insecure person. Let's call it the opposite of confidence is insecurity. That's not about that.
Yep.
The wisdom of security is that the story, it's Taoist and Buddhist, but it's like there is no such thing as safety.
Mm,
There is no constant but change.
mm,
Nothing will be the same, and you're not in control.
yeah.
Right. And that's the game. And so everything that we do to try to maintain a grasp on safety or security and control sets us up for failure. Right. It sets us up for an explosion. It sets us up for a
Yeah.
major letdown. So there is this deep wisdom
Yep.
in insecurity and just knowing that like there's no such thing as security.
Yeah.
Everyone has a story of like the healthiest person they know getting hit by a bus, right?
Yep.
Like, or whatever. But there's no way to like feel secure in the world. It's not
Mm,
real. And so there's a way to go about life. Like if you go about life, why are corporate jobs hard? I had one. I did one for 5 years. Why are they hard? The work itself isn't like that hard. What's hard is going to the office 5 days a week while your soul slowly dies loudly inside your body.
Mhm.
And that's hard to do. You know, and that will kill you, literally. And that like, so it's like these things are like the security, these ideas are soul level transformational stuff that like will hurt you in way. If you try to be safe, you will destroy another part of your being. It's
Yep.
just like, and the oldest spiritual practices we have, Taoism, the Vedas, Buddhism, all these things, that this is the teaching.
Mm. Yep.
This, so why we think we can make enough money to be safe is pure absurdity. Well, if I
Yep.
marry this person and commit to monogamy, then I'll never have to worry about it ever again. How's that working out for everybody?
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Like, how's that working out?
Yep. That's a great quote. Your soul slowly dies loudly inside your body.
It's insane. The hard part of a corporate job is waking up to that alarm, putting
Yeah.
on that stupid outfit, going there and like playing this game and just wasting your time.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like now we need corporate jobs and they're important. I'm happy I did it. Like I think the company I worked with created a beautiful product in the world and helped people. But everyone feels it.
Yep.
Nobody doesn't feel it. No matter if it's the most vanilla guy in the office that you know that's like total corporate work, he feels it. Everybody
Yeah.
feels it.
So how do you do it? Because in concept, we can think that, yeah, like, oh, like don't, there is no certainty, there's no safety. All that is true is change. How do you have a practice? Do you have a thing you remind yourself? What do you do? How do you feel like
I,
you instill that in your body?
I don't pretend to be like a biohacker or spiritual teacher or life coach in any way. So like
Yeah.
I don't I don't do it well. I
Yeah.
remind myself constantly.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. But my favorite spiritual teacher that I like listen to, and they're all the same. They all say the same shit. But I really like all of them. They all say the same thing. I mean, even Tony, right?
Mhm.
Tony is like a Buddhist, right? He's just like translating Buddhism into capitalism and like self-improvement.
It's true.
And by the way, I
Yeah.
actually felt after I did for Destiny, I was like, if America has a religion, it's Tony Robbins.
That's true.
I will
Tony,
lead, not follow. I am a leader. It's like wild stuff. Um,
he is the guy behind all the corporate and all the people that control the world, right? Um,
yeah,
he's
God,
the guy,
he's a trip.
he's the guy that walked out of the ayahuasca ceremony and said, "Is there a business here?"
Totally, 100%. I mean, he is pure Captain America. Um, but my practice right now is, do you ever read The Untethered Soul or The Surrender Experiment?
Yeah, both. They're great. Michael Singer's awesome.
So I got to spend a day with Mikey.
Wow. In
I just
Florida?
kept emailing him until his team put me in touch with him.
Wow.
And we got to spend a day with him. And
You went to his place in Florida?
yeah, it was in the
Nice.
middle of nowhere. Like, it's great. It's in Alachua County. It's like North Gainesville near UF. Where this woman that I spoke about earlier has a family farm.
Oh yeah.
Um, but ain't nothing going on there other than that. And he said something that resonated with me deeply, that is becoming my practice, however it can even be a practice. But it's like he's like the universe, God, Great Spirit, the Tao, Allah, Jesus, Krishna, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it, it created everything that came before you. And it's going to create everything that comes after you. And it
Mm.
creates everything that you can see. And it made your eyes that can see.
Mm.
What do you think it needs your help for?
Yeah.
Like, you think it needs you to like do something? No. Like, and Ram Dass, what died? Becoming nothing, right? Becoming nobody. And so I think the practice is just like trying to maintain as much presence as possible and not
Hmm.
through some Vedic TM thing or some like breath work, shaman, ice plunge, cold bath. Like just do the things that you feel good about and feel grateful for the life and recognize the great crazy mystery that we're living in and just
Yeah.
do all the things that can help you remind yourself of that as often as possible. I actually love the call to prayer.
In
The call to
Islam.
prayer is beautiful. 5 times a day, as
Yeah.
loud as possible, everywhere in there's a mosque. And that call to prayer, what it says is it's a reminder that there's something much greater than you going on.
Mm.
You read Aldous Huxley's last book, Island, they trained all the birds to say attention. So every time you would hear a bird chirp, it would just say attention. And the other species of birds they trained to say here and now. And you just these reminders that like there's
Yeah.
something so wild going on that is this creation act that we live in. That's it. There's like there is
Mm.
no practice, there is no guru, there is no shaman, there is no, and all these rituals that we build are just meant to remind, no matter what religion they are meant to
Yeah.
just remind us, you know? Like so whatever you could build into your life to remind yourself that like, I think this shit fucking matters.
Mm.
Nothing matters.
Yep. Yep. I agree,
But and it
man.
also doesn't mean it doesn't mean the converse of that is like people are like, oh well, like just go with the flow, you never do anything.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah.
That is wrong. Something is presented to you to do, you just do it as best you can with every piece of love and presence and attention and wonder and curiosity and mystery, and it'll be incredible.
Yeah. I love that. Yep. And that's your purpose. I think people, I know you talked about your purpose is to find your purpose. And, but also like right now, my purpose is to do this podcast with you. And after
Yeah.
this, my purpose will be to do the next thing. Cause that's true presence too. Cause who knows if I'll even be alive in the next 10 minutes. So
Totally. It's wild that it works, these bodies, and they stay alive through all the
it's,
shit we put in.
yeah. And all
You know
the,
what the greatest testament to like God is like that you can literally like eat McDonald's and Coca-Cola for 40 years and like stay alive.
it is amazing how durable our bodies are. Now these element salts, you could eat the crappy element salts and stay alive, drink them.
I to just do bumps of element of electrolytes.
So you
But
have an awesome new, well, so my place, awesome, right? You're having a community for people to share their homes that are awesome. And again, you're building an amazing community around that. Namuna, too, another amazing community you're building it's a values-based community that transcends the traditional geographic borders, races, and socioeconomic status. And then you also recently launched your Conversations podcast, where you host inspiring conversations with world-changing visionaries that used to be only be held in private or curated events. And you're bringing that and sharing it with the world. Tell us more about that.
yeah, I mean, it's all been kind of a progression. I kept trying to tell the story I wanted to tell through companies.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's about sharing, so let me create like a sharing platform, and that's where my place came from, and it's growing really well, and it's beautiful, and it's amazing connections happening there. Namuna was like, there's all these diverse spiritual leaders who are not associated with any mainstream religion, whether they're spiritual leaders, community builders, thought leaders, or kind of writers. They're like filling the gap that once like a priest or a rabbi would fill. So we're like, what if we could get them all together and help them share resources and ideas and give them a like support and give them a 501c3 religion so they can operate just like with all the resources that a priest would have. So
Mm.
that's what Namuna's been turned into. But then at the end of the day, I realized like, why don't I just tell the story that I've been doing rather than try to make a project out of it? And so the
Yeah.
podcast is really um all the things that have been happening in private at the return events and at the Namuna events and at dinner tables and inspiring conversations with all these amazing people. They're just, I realized that like our mindset, our like the people that like you and I and all of our friends are like radically optimistic about both the present and the future.
Yep.
And that story doesn't live anywhere,
Mm.
right? Like no, everybody's the mainstream narrative is so pessimistic about the present and the future. And if you talk to any of the creative class, the people who are building stuff, creating things, everyone's just optimistic about the future and the present and super stoked to be alive right now. And so that story just needs to come out. So I just want to have, I'm just trying to have the most casual conversations I can with my friends about what they think, what's going on. And these range from poets and artists and entrepreneurs to
Mm.
musicians, writers, and yeah, it's just a trippy group of people who are building the future that we're all living in.
I love that. Nice. And that's on a podcast. It's called Conversations with Zach Bell. Yeah.
Conversation with Zach Bell, Spotify and Apple right now.
Amazing. Awesome, Zach. I can go
Also
on
releasing
for
them all on YouTube.
on you. You're gonna put the videos on YouTube too, yeah?
I am.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Perfect. Oh, tell us about, before we wrap things up. I love your, we were talking about this earlier. I like your experiment that you're doing of no phones for an hour in the morning. How did that come about? How's that going?
It started 7 days. So I'm in a process of um, trying to talk to the internet like just like I talk to people.
Mm.
And it's really, really hard. And so I'm running experiments to try to see like what can I just be authentic with that I could just say. And I just flipped my phone on like a week ago and I was like, God, it's so hard to keep my phone off for an hour in the morning. Ah, and it was like the most watched thing I've ever put on the internet. So I think that's where it came from. And I'm doing I have a group of people doing it with me now. We're just doing like no phones for an hour in the morning.
Yeah,
And it's wildly challenging.
it is, man. My
And all
phone
the
is, go ahead.
oh, please, please, please.
No, I was gonna say my phone. Elon Musk said this, right? It's like we don't even realize how AI is already like taking over, not to scare us, right? But we already are like cyborgs. It's like my phone is like always here, and I'm like, I don't think I always even use it in bad ways, but even to like my alarm or like a breath work app or just tracking my sleep in the morning, it's like my phone. So that's like for me, that's an obstacle where it is a useful tool, but then once you slide down that slope, then it's like, oh, there's a message, right? Or oh, there's this. So
It's built to get in there. And
yep.
we're a generation where we grew up without the internet and then we got it. So I remember what it used to be like. Your imagination runs free, your nervous system calms down.
Yeah.
It's like so hard. But all these ancient techniques, meditation, breath work. I did this. I was like, how did someone figure out that this works?
Yeah.
Like who's the guy who was like, if I hold my thumbs like this and breathe, it like, activates this like serpent in your spine. What? Like all these ancient practices are actually really relevant today because we have the most distracting thing that's ever existed on the planet hitting us in the face all day
Mhm.
long. So like actually these practices are incredible. And they're like, I almost I wrote a thing a while ago. I started this meditation school in New York a long time ago, and I basically was like, you don't need to meditate. I don't need you to be spiritual to meditate. I don't really care. Like, but if you use an iPhone, you pretty much have to learn to meditate, or that thing's gonna break you.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know how to gather and focus your attention in the pure
Yeah.
present, that phone is gonna you up.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's almost like forget all the spiritual garbage, forget all of the woo-woo stuff. You
Yeah.
just literally need to learn how to take deep breaths and focus your attention if you're going to use a phone. It's a
I agree.
requirement now.
Yeah. It's like going to the gym. You have to take care of your body, otherwise, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, totally.
So that's cool. So you started, I love the one where I saw the one of you in the sauna. That was funny. You're just like dripping sweat on the freaking screen. I'm like, yeah, this is like authentic and real.
It's so hard to be authentic and real. I was chatting with I had a friend over for dinner last night. He's like a writer and produces a lot of television and stuff. She was just like, it's so hard to be like you sit down to write and all of a sudden you're like writer voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you sit down and make a video and you're like
Yep.
instant voice.
Yeah. We get into these modes.
It's so
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like, why can't we just talk to it? And so I'm just trying to do it. And so I was like, I mean, and these things are right here. You don't need to do any editing. You don't need to do anything. You don't need a camera. You
Yeah.
don't need a mic. Just like turn it on, talk to it. If you have something to say, and other people will probably resonate with it if it's authentic. If it's not authentic, nobody's going to give a shit. Nobody wants to watch your marketing.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. That's a good one too. Nobody wants to watch your marketing. That's
Nobody wants to watch your marketing. Everyone wants to feel something. Every great writer, every great artist touched on a real human emotion that they were attempting to express. If you
yeah.
have an emotion you want to express it, and it will likely resonate with people. If you're trying to like express an emotion in order to sell a course,
Yep.
people will see through that
Oh yeah.
instantly.
I saw it so bad the other day with somebody. It was terrible. But yeah, I agree for sure.
I was watching an Instagram reel with a group of friends, and one of my friends was like leading a meditation, and in the middle of the meditation, I go, "Holy shit! I bet you she sells a course at the end of this meditation."
Yeah.
And at the end of the meditation, it was like, if you enjoyed this meditation, you can sign up for my 10-day course starting tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God, I knew it was a sales pitch.
How do you do it? So it's funny. I hate marketing,
Yeah.
but I need to do it up. Well, maybe it's a limiting belief, and maybe there's a way to do it where it doesn't feel like marketing, which is sales too. I'm good at sales, but the best sales is when I'm actually I used to like try to sell people right when I first started in sales, but now I'm good at sales because I just build relationships and really care about people and have awesome conversations. But with marketing, I just would never share my stuff. I like to share things like the podcast, but I wouldn't like, the only reason I would post it on Instagram and stuff is because I know I want eyeballs and people to hear the conversation. But I don't, my nature wouldn't be to actually share this podcast and be like, oh, listen to this podcast with Zach. Like, what's your thought process on marketing and like, or just sharing your stuff?
I mean, the greatest marketer I ever talked to told me one thing, and he was like, just assume people have perfect information. Assume they know everything that you know.
Mm,
Like, assume that, and assume that everyone feels what you feel.
yeah.
And so if it's interesting, tell people why it's interesting. Like, I'm doing that. I'm starting tomorrow. I was like, I gotta do a podcast and I gotta like cut it into reels, then I gotta post the reels. And if people like the reels, they'll watch the podcast. Fuck that. So I'm just gonna start ripping out my phone and be like, all right, so I just got done. I had a great conversation with my buddy. And here's why I think it's interesting. And if you found that interesting, you should watch it. If not, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna start doing. It's like, what can I everything we did with I marketed the shit out of my place. Why? Because it's really helpful for me. Changed my life.
Mm, yep.
If I can travel the world and there's weird thumbs happening. If I can travel the world and stay with friends, or stay at friends' houses or swap or trade places or pay below cost or whatever, it's changed my life. I've met people. It's taken me in direction. So I told everybody about it because it's really
Yeah.
it was impactful for me.
Yeah.
And with Hobby Toss, like I really thought we were building a global community to like have homes around the world. And I just like thought this was what we were doing. And so I told
Mm,
everyone, like, hey, I've been looking for this community and I found it and it's here. Like, come on, it's amazing. Music's great, food's great, people are great. We're doing interesting stuff. Come on. And
yeah.
the second that those aren't true anymore, I stopped doing it.
Wow. I love that, man.
It was
So
just a
you're
story you carry
a
that
story
you
you
find.
carry. Yeah. Yep. And you share it.
Yeah. And
Yep.
if you're carrying a story that you are passionate about, you will become interesting to people.
Mm,
When we were building the healthcare company, the corporate job I had, the founder was like, I mean, the company was really interesting, and I was the head of marketing. And it would take over conversations at dinner. And I was just like tired of like telling the story every night at dinner, but like it would open it up a little bit, and then everyone asked questions. It'd be an hour of me talking. And he was like, I learned this a long time ago when I was a young entrepreneur. He was like kind of a marketing focused CEO. He was like, if anyone asks you what you do and you don't want to tell the story, just say you sell health insurance. And they will instantly stop talking to you. And so he was like, and then this other little tidbit I'll give that's phenomenal. I went to this Habsburg princess's New Year's party many years
hmm
ago, Jamaica. She has like this castle palace thing, and she's multi hundreds of years of being a princess in that family line. And when she would receive guests, they would walk up to her and she would like, "Hello, and so what are you selling?" That was her greeting to everybody. And if you think about that, like all of us are selling something, we're carrying a
Yep.
story. And so either
Yep.
that story is authentic and it's interesting and it's exciting to you, and that will magnify.
Yep.
And if it's not, you shouldn't be telling the story.
Yep. That's true too, right? I learned that from Tony, right? We're always telling a story, and selling should be selling an empowering story, right? So some people feel disempowered about it and they withhold it because they feel guilty about sharing it or something, or they sell it in like the way that people don't like usually, right? Where it's like, oh, let me try to like sell you this thing, which feels like sleazy and slimy. So I love that. Like just own that story that you're passionate about and share it with the world.
And if you don't like the story, stop telling it.
Yeah.
I have a friend, I had a therapist I worked with a long time ago that was like, I was like, so in here, telling going to my loop, and she was like, I'm so bored of hearing that story.
Mm.
You must be bored of telling it. Like, are you done now? Can we be done
Yeah.
with that story? Like, are you over? It's so boring. She's like,
Yup.
I'm here to try and paid to listen to you. I can't hear you say it again. And I was like, that's so good. I was like, I am bored of telling you that story does suck.
That's great.
And
That's a skilled therapist. Good to hear that.
it was
Yep.
so good.
So
But that's
you're
marketing. Like, marketing is just really authentically sharing.
So, so
Um,
you're so you're telling me I have to start talking about my stuff like you talk to the internet
but you don't
authentically.
have to. That's what I
Uh,
like.
no, yeah, no, I'm joking, but yeah, but like
You gotta
authentically and
get naked and go in
passionately,
the sauna.
yeah, yep,
No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I've done things that have been really successful marketing, but like if you just hired me to market like your fucking water bottle company, like I don't know that I'd be the best guy to do that. It'd have to be a really compelling water bottle.
yep, yeah. You have
I
to,
attach to the emotion I feel that is exciting to me about it, and then I can translate that.
yep. Which brings us back to the beginning, sharing, right?
Yeah.
And then you want to share it, and that's the beauty, and that's something.
Virality. This is the best quote I ever got from a technologist. Virality is value that you received expressed to another in the shortest amount of characters. That's why
Viral,
things go. I received
yeah.
value from this, and I want to give you that value.
Mm,
That's how virality was it. If you didn't find something valuable, whether it's funny or
yeah.
sad or cute or amazing or powerful experience, you will share it with another person. If
Mm,
it has to be shared by a phone call, it's going to spread more slowly. If it can be
yeah.
shared button, it can move quicker. But like
Mm,
if you can express what that value is simply, it flies. If
amazing,
you
dude.
receive value and you share that value.
Yeah, I love
Why do we
that.
share? Because then if I share something with you that I really found valuable that you will get value out of, my value to you will go up.
Mm,
That's why people share things.
yeah, I love it, man. That's so good. So many gems. I'm gonna share real quick for people to know your sharing principles. So one, it's belief. You must share first to start. Two, not attachment. You mustn't expect anything in return. Three, gratitude. You must be grateful every time, all the time. Four is kindness. You must be kind, be the person people want to share with. Impermanence, nothing is yours to keep. We're all headed to the same place. That was number five. Number six, trust. The more you share, the more you get back. Number seven, cyclical, rinse and repeat as desired.
Totally. I love that piece.
Yeah. I love you got the little Snoopy and his little yellow friend. I forget the little yellow guy's name.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah. Dude, that was incredible, Zach. I appreciate you sharing all your insights and your experience and your energy too. It's very infectious. So thanks for that. People, if they want to connect with you or learn more, then go to myplace.com. They could go to,
MyPlace.co. You can actually go to my website, like zachmbell.com, and
yep,
link to everything. Links to YouTube, Spotify, MyPlace,
perfect.
Namuna, Turn, everything. zachmbell.com.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, you have everything here. It's great. Your TED
But
talk
my
is
place is
here.
the my place is the primary thing that people can interact with right now. The podcast and my place. My place
Cool.
is amazing. I like we have such a great network on the platform that the way that it works is it connects to your contact book and then shows you places to stay around the world based on who you know. So it's
Nice.
shared from friends of friends, automatic network build. It's super easy. We have tens of millions of phone numbers on there, tens of thousands of people using it. It's rad. So I'm sure that a lot of your listeners are in our network and we'll have lots of friends on there already.
They do, yeah. And Josephine is on it. I'm actually not officially on it. I gotta get on it. I put
Where
my
you at?
place, I put my place in Puerto Rico on it. I think maybe through her account or may have set up an account. I'll talk to her. But I just download the app and set it up. Yeah.
iPhone.
Oh, cool.
App Store. Download the app. It takes 3 minutes and you have an
Perfect.
account. You'll see a ton of people that you know on there, I'm sure.
Perfect. Cool. I was gonna ask you if there's a fee for it. No, I'm joking. I know.
There hopefully will be at some point. We have to figure out how this thing makes money at some point. My investors are like, all right, so
Yep.
we're
Dope,
setting up
man.
groups right now, actually. You know, all the housing groups,
Oh, yeah.
bringing
Oh,
them
that's
all
a
on the
great
platform.
idea. So like,
Yeah, we
yes,
built a groups
Nomad.
feature.
Yeah, yes, Nomads. There's some in Puerto Rico if you want. I can connect you with them too. Um,
Yep.
but that's cool.
Trying to bring them all out of WhatsApp threads onto a structured platform where it's actually helpful. So
Yeah,
the group admins maintain full control over their community on the platform and can communicate to their community, and you can
that's so
request to join a
smart.
group. Yeah,
Dude,
it's
that's
all
really smart. Yeah.
Summit just joined. Summit, a lot of membership communities are joining, like Summit YPO, things
Yeah.
like that.
That's
We want to
awesome.
do something within the Tony Robbins ecosystem. His son Jarek and
Oh yeah,
one of my buddies is deep in that world, and so we're trying to figure out how to like loop in like the Lions or like some of these different tiers of community in there.
that's great, dude. I was gonna say I could connect you, but you obviously know Jarek, so just talk to him.
Jarek's an
That's
investor, actually.
yeah, I know. He told me that. That's awesome. Incredible, dude. Well, how are we gonna? I'm gonna let you wrap up the show. What's your final message, parting words for the audience?
I just want to tell the story all the time. If there's
Yeah,
anywhere that you think I should tell the story, I'm available.
tell which story. Us, are you gonna tell
This,
us?
what
Oh,
we
this
chatted
story.
about today.
Oh, cool. Yeah, dude. This story was incredible.
I want to do this stuff all the time. I
Yeah.
love, I just wanted to go to more audiences, and I'm tired of doing it one by one. So I'm just trying to help people find inspiration about being alive today and the simplicities that it comes with in a more public forum. I feel like it could be really helpful for people. I
Yep.
think if this resonates with people in the
Oh,
audience, like hit me up. I'm around.
dude, absolutely, man, for
I'm in
sure.
a responsive mode of my career.
I love it.
I'm going where I'm called instead of going where I feel like I need to go.
Yeah.
I'm not deciding anymore,
Yep.
Thanks to Michael Singer, I am no longer deciding. I'm just letting the universe take me where it will.
Being totally present. I'm gonna try the 1 hour no phone challenge in the morning too, actually.
Hit me up, text me on Instagram or something afterwards. I have people text me on WhatsApp or whatever. You can let me be your first text.
Cool. Oh, like you're saying in the morning after I go for an
After
hour?
the hour, if you need a release before you get
Oh
into it.
yeah. Cool. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that.
I think I might put together, I don't know how to do this, but it's definitely people are really responding well to it. So I'd love to. It's funny, like when you need help with something, if you collect a group of people to do it with you, it makes it easier.
Dude, that 1,000,000%. Yeah, that's such a key principle, right? And that's why it's awesome that you're so good at building those communities. It's such, yeah, when you have that community around you, it's going to support you, it's going to challenge you, it's going to call you out on your BS if you're like slacking or caught up or telling the same stupid story again, like your therapist caught you.
Someone
So yeah,
responded in my comments. They were like, I wake up every morning with like 30 minutes of red light, then I do 20 minutes of breath
yeah,
work. And I was like, bullshit,
yes.
liar. No, you don't. Liar. Don't make people feel like they're not good enough. You are not doing that. You're a liar. But yeah, it's like the story of the monks, right? Like the idea of a monk meditating alone in the woods. Or like the
Maybe, I don't
idea of
know.
like I just want to like go to the woods and meditate like a monk. You know what's
Yeah,
there
yeah,
with the monk?
yeah.
You know what's also there with the monk when they're meditating alone? Like
No.
hundreds of other monks.
Yeah.
Like meditating alone. Like it takes like 100 people for you to be able to meditate alone. You
That's
gotta make
true.
food and clean the house and keep the electrical bills on and pay the power, like and do the laundry. Like it takes like a lot of people for you to meditate alone in the woods.
That's true.
And the ritual and the community, and that's what's all about.
Yeah. I love it, man. Thank you so much for your time, Zach. This is incredible.
I'm gonna go pack up this shack and get it ready for hurricane season.
All right.